Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning back in today. You are listening to Society Bites Radio. And my name is Jillian Beth. I'm an intuitive healer and coach who's on a mission to empower women by reconnecting them to their inner wisdom. And I, again, am very excited for today's show. We're actually in the middle or nearing the second half of our 4-part series. And this series is all about a woman's cycle, the truth that will set you free. So if you missed the first 2 shows, definitely go check them out. We talk about why it's important to know your cycle. We talk about an overview of each of the 4 parts of it. And on this week's show, we're talking about a practical how-to guide on how to get to know your cycle, which is definitely important, especially if you're new to this. So we have the beautiful Angie ILG back. And if you are not familiar with her, definitely want to get familiar. She is amazing, as you'll hear on today's show. She is a coach and NLP practitioner who works with people who want to get more out of their life, whether that's in their life direction, in confidence, relationships, or any other areas where they're experiencing procrastination, comparison, stress, confusion, or unhappiness. So she helps you guys discover and create the happiness you're looking for, find your purpose, and feel the peace within yourselves, your life, and your relationships. And that just sounds amazing, Angie. So thank you for coming back this week.
Yes, I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. And I've had so much fun with you on the last couple
Me too.
shows. Yeah. And this one I think is really important because I know there are a lot of women right now and men that are interested in knowing how can they understand women better, which we'll talk about even more in depth next week. But for the ladies specifically this week, how do you really get to know your cycle? Like, let's really ground this into some practical steps. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds great. And I love getting grounded with things and making it simple.
Yeah, so let's definitely do that. And I want to start. I shared on, I believe it was the first episode in our series, a little bit of a personal story, but I want to share again, in case you guys missed that, just how incredibly important and life changing it was when I began to track my own cycle. And it seemed absolutely crazy because, like many people, I basically just understood, oh, this is when I'm either, as you always say, on your period or not. But realizing that there was so much more that went into it and that it was actually something to be honored and to understand was incredible for me. So I started tracking my cycle and I did it faithfully. Now I missed probably a couple days here and there due to whatever was happening, but I literally tracked it for like 8 or 9 months straight.
Wow.
And yes, and it came from one of the book recommendations, which we'll give out here a little bit later on in the show. So keep listening. But it was really cool because it had this basically like pie chart cut into 28 pieces where you can not only track where the moon was, because ladies, if you're not already familiar with this, our cycles most of the time track directly with the moon. Not surprising, the moon is a powerful, strong, feminine energy. And so I got to see where the moon was, what day of the cycle I was on, and then I also tracked my attitude, how tired I was, how hungry I was. And I began very, very quickly to see similarities from month to month. And those similarities gave me a sense of relief in many ways, recognizing, oh, yeah, I felt really tired and wanted to nap right about the same time last month. Or, oh, yeah, I felt super energized and barely had an appetite right around this time last month. So it is incredibly powerful, powerful, powerful. I can't say that enough. And I know you have tracked your cycle as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we read that same book and used that chart. I used that pie chart for, I think, 4 months.
Hmm.
And so I went in between over the past couple of years, really zoomed in detail where every day for for a while, for a few months, I was writing down like you did, what maybe it was my emotions or my overall energy, just anything I noticed, like wanted to be around people or didn't want to be around people. That was like one of the key things. If I felt creative, if working out was easy or hard.
Yeah.
So things like that. And it wasn't that every day I tracked my emotions or every day I tracked my energy. It was what was most noticeable. So it was that
Mm,
it was very zoomed in for a while for me. And then I took a break from that, but then I did come back again and tried tracking it in different ways. So it's great to, I think, do a minimum of 3 months when you get started, which might
yes.
sound like a lot, but it only takes less than a minute really every day. And if you set yourself up in a simple way where it's in the same place where you can write it down or put it in your phone, then it's
Hmm.
really easy.
I totally agree, and I'm glad that you brought that part up because I think it is important to have a little bit of a history. So doing it over a period, like Angie said, of 3 months is wonderful. It's not too long. You don't have to do it for a full year or even 8 or 9 months like I did, but at least give yourself a few months to start seeing to start to see what things are repeating themselves, what things are coming back. And also, much like Angie said, it doesn't have to be super difficult. Like she was tracking what was most apparent to her. I'm sure that's basically what I did as well. I noticed, oh, I'm really crabby today, or gosh, I want to take a nap today, those kinds of things. So it doesn't have to be this laboring experience. You can keep it really simple as well, and it still will be magical for you.
Yes, and I can guarantee there's no wrong way to do this
Yeah.
because just the act of writing something down when as it relates to your internal experience is enough so
Hmm.
that you're going to be tuning in more than you were if you're not doing that already.
Totally agree. You will absolutely be tuning in more and you may get more curious. So maybe you want to take it to a different level or to add something to it, or maybe not, but just getting into the habit of recognizing what's going on, because that's the other thing I noticed. For a lot of my days, I called it, and I'm using air quotes that nobody can see right now, but in my body, in the sense that like I wasn't paying attention to what I was feeling or what was going on as much. I just knew if I was overall having a good or not so great day. So it really allows you or gives you an opportunity to tune in and pay attention to what the heck is going on with you today? How are you feeling? How can you acknowledge what is happening to yourself and have compassion? I can't say that enough either.
Yeah, compassion, understanding, and acceptance. And this is a process of reconnecting to yourself as a soul and as a woman to begin to notice more of who you are and how you operate in this world so that you can have a better experience, feel more love, have more success, whatever it is you're wanting. It's really,
Mm,
really powerful. And it, again, is easy. It doesn't,
yeah.
it's not hard. Um, and what I found is that I went through by getting really zoomed in for periods of time over the past 2 years, it allowed me to zoom out and know generally in the fall I experienced these things. Generally in the winter I experienced these things. So it was really nice to know more or less what to expect for myself and not in any limiting way or any judgmental way or anything like that, but just in to wait to know I need to be extra kind to myself about these things during this time, or I really want to plan an event that I'm going to put on in my expressive summer phase because I know from tracking that it's so easy to be around people and I love getting to just sit with someone or just talk with someone. I don't feel as much during that time that I need to be as focused on myself or my work. I'm more focused on
Right.
other people, things like that. It's so nice to get that through going to get really zoomed in for a while, and you won't need to do that all the time because you'll ingrain it in an unconscious way that you have this new self-awareness that you just carry
Mm.
forward.
It's so true. And you and I are almost always on the exact same wavelength because right before you started talking about zoomed in and zoomed out, that's literally what I thought.
Oh
Even
my gosh,
to it really is
I love
because
it.
I noticed even today, now I am in my ovulation, my summer phase. I did not have much of an appetite, which is totally normal for me around this time. I have more energy. So even though I only slept, I think 5.5 or 6 hours, I woke up like, all right, let's start the day. I am able to think very clearly during this time. And I know that it's generally a good time for communication for me. And so earlier today, when I was like, oh, that's weird, I haven't had anything to eat yet, and it's almost noon. Oh, yeah, that's because I'm in this phase. And how great it is that I have my show that I'm recording today because I'm also in the communicative phase. So it is really cool to zoom in, like Angie was saying, and understand these details to then just have it become a part of your daily life, really. And just being able to recognize that and acknowledge it is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't remember a time before this. It feels like this is just the way it is, because I'm so used to it now. It's become such a part of my life, and all the women in my life too now.
Yes.
They're paying so much attention to it in a really easy way, not like, oh, I have to spend so much time focusing on this. It just makes sense once you start to learn about it that you would pay attention. And so, for example, for me, I know from paying attention that I sleep a lot more during the fall luteal premenstruation phase and
Mhm.
during the menstrual phase for sure. And so, although I like having a lot of structure in my business and having the same general start times and end times for work, I also know that I'm going to be more lenient during those phases because I might need to sleep in a little later. And I fortunately am able to do that with my business. I know some people can't, but you might be able to accommodate in other ways because you've paid
Yeah.
attention to know your sleeping is different.
I totally agree. And that is the cool thing as you begin to understand it more, where if possible, yes, you can work your daily life or potentially your business around it. But even if you don't feel like it's possible because say you work a 9 to 5 and you got whatever going on, you can still create those spaces of time. So maybe that means, hey, for lunch, instead of going out with all of the coworkers like you normally would during some parts of your cycle, most likely the latter two during the fall and winter, you may want to go by yourself or go sit in your car and take a nap or meditate or whatever. So there's always ways to work around it. And the other really cool thing that you mentioned, Angie, was, having the conversation with your girlfriends. And it still sounds crazy as I say this, because even though I've been doing it for a couple of years and it is pretty normal to me in a sense, I know better how to ask for support and to support my girlfriends when I understand where they are in their cycle or where I am in mine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel the same way. And I also feel better about saying no to something when I know it lines up with my fall phase when I don't have as much energy to be around people. So in my relationships, that can be understood. I've even shared that before when I was invited to a housewarming party. So I knew the date a couple weeks out, and it looked like it would line up with day 1 or 2 of my cycle when I would be getting my period. And I let her know I'd like to come, but I might not be able to for that reason. And she
Hmm.
like totally got it.
Yep.
So it was totally fine to take pressure off me. And again, that's just simple paying attention over the course of cycles that you get to